It's general knowledge that Tierney is returning to the boys this summer. However, we have some big news regarding him after a latest twist. We will cover this in today's video whilst going over all the latest Celtic news from the last 24 hours. But first, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel for more Celtic content. Ross Doohan is on the verge of a return to Celtic, and he's now in the frame to start for Scotland in tonight's friendly away to Liechtenstein. The 27-year-old who came through the youth ranks at the Hoops is expected to sign a pre-contract agreement to rejoin the club next month. With over 150 senior appearances under his belt and recent strong performances, Doohan's stock has risen to the point where Steve Clarke turned to him in the national team's hour of need. Doohan had been away on a family break when the call came, but wasted no time making himself available for international duty. The timing of his recall couldn't have been better. Celtic poised to bring him back into the fold ahead of the new season. His profile continues to climb. Clarke said, "Phone call, are you available?" "Yes." "Can you get a flight?" "Yes." And there he was, in the hotel. He'd been away with his family. It says everything, but a chance to join up with the national squad is not something you turn down, not in my book anyway. He's got over 150 senior games. One of the things we were trying to find was somebody who'd trained pretty late into the season, so obviously Ross had been involved in the cup final not that long ago, so it's not as if he's going to be deconditioned or out of practice, Clarke concluded. Doohan's impending return to the Hoops would add competition to a goalkeeping group that currently includes Kasper Schmeichel and Viljami Sinisalo. Celtic's recruitment team appear to be planning ahead, with Doohan viewed as a solid and experienced option for the long term. Doohan was let go by Celtic in 2022, but now he's close to starting for Scotland and rejoining the club. It's been a steady rise back, and his quick response to the national team call will be noticed at Lennox Town. As Brendan Rodgers prepares his squad for a demanding campaign, the return of a goalkeeper who knows the club inside out and is hungry for success could prove valuable. With Schmeichel turning 39 this year and question marks around the long-term shape of the position, Doohan's arrival could be well-timed. If Doohan impresses against Liechtenstein tonight, it would show he's ready to take his chance, whether that's with Scotland or back at Celtic. Now for the main story, Kieran Tierney's highly anticipated Celtic comeback has suffered an early blow as the defender pulled out of Scotland duty with an injury. The 28-year-old featured in the national team's bruising 3-1 loss to Iceland at Hampden, a result that heaped pressure on Steve Clarke. Tierney looked short of sharpness throughout, prompting immediate questions about his condition. Those fears have now been realised, with Scotland boss Steve Clarke admitting that Tierney arrived in camp nursing a knock. The news comes at a frustrating time for Brendan Rodgers, who had been getting ready to reintroduce the fullback to his squad after a summer switch. With pre-season preparations just around the corner, the Celtic manager will be keen to have all his key players available and match ready. The exact details of the injury remain unclear, but the decision to involve Tierney at all has sparked criticism. With his well-known struggles to stay fit, questions are being asked about why he was risked in a friendly that carried no real significance. For Celtic fans, the main concern now is whether this setback could spill over into the start of the new season. Tierney is still regarded as one of Celtic's best ever academy graduates, and the buzz around his possible return has been significant. His pace, aggression and presence on the left side bring a dynamic edge that could lift the entire team, but that influence hinges completely on his ability to stay fit. Celtic's medical staff will be keeping a close eye as the situation unfolds, with Steve Clarke providing an update on the defender's condition. He said, "Scott McTominay and Kieran both came into camp carrying some little issues over from the season, so I think if we had a longer turnaround between the games, they might have had a chance, but listen, it's the end of season for those two. The most important thing is to have a good rest over the summer and come back flying in the autumn," Clarke concluded. Greg Taylor's departure adds another layer to the situation on the left-hand side of Celtic's defence, with the full story on his move to Greece exclusively covered elsewhere on Seltzer here. His exit only sharpens the focus on Tierney's fitness and the need for reliable depth in that position ahead of a demanding season. The question now turns to how Tierney's recovery is handled. After a stop-start few years at Arsenal and Real Sociedad, the left-back needs a stable run of games to truly find form again. Celtic's coaching staff will be aiming to balance his minutes and manage his workload across all competitions. Tierney's commitment to Celtic has never been in doubt. The player has made no secret of his love for the club, and his desire to return home has been one of the main stories of the summer so far. but sentiment alone won't help if he's not available for selection. For now, Celtic fans will hope the withdrawal from Scotland duty is precautionary rather than the start of another long spell in the treatment room. If Tierney can stay fit, he'll have a massive role to play in what promises to be another demanding season for the Scottish champions. In other news, Luis Palma's time at Celtic is approaching its natural conclusion, with the winger expected to move on following a season that never quite got going in Glasgow. After a promising start in the hoops, Palma found himself slipping down the pecking order and out of Brendan Rodgers' plans. Brought in for £3.5 million from Aris Thessaloniki in 2023, the Honduran made an instant impact. His first few months saw him contribute goals and assists at a healthy rate, adding directness and flair on the left wing, but as the campaign progressed, his involvement tailed off significantly. Palma was shipped out on loan to Olympiacos for the majority of last season. Despite flashes of his ability, the Greek club declined the opportunity to sign him permanently, meaning he will return to Celtic this summer, likely only temporarily, as a transfer looks to be on the cards. At 25, Palma still has plenty to offer elsewhere, but his affection for Celtic has remained constant throughout. Even with limited game time and a loan spell abroad, he has never spoken with anything but pride about his connection to the club. This is what he had to say. "I'm not going to lie to you, as a kid, you always want to play to be happy, for fun. There was a time when I could see football as a job, but if you ask me if I ever saw myself playing in the Champions League, I can tell you yes. Because one day I was watching a Celtic game where Emilio Izaguirre was playing at the time. I was at home with my parents and I told my mum, one day I'm going to be there. Just like life, 10 years later, 8 years later, I was already playing for Celtic, making my Champions League debut and scoring a goal. I was able to fulfill the childhood dream I always had," he concluded. Palma's comments show just how much Celtic meant to him, even before he signed for the club. He looked up to fellow Honduran Emilio Izaguirre and promised himself as a boy that one day he would wear the hoops and play in the Champions League. That wasn't just a dream, it was something he believed he would do, and he made it happen. In football, it's not often that feelings and personal dreams matter more than what happens on the pitch, but for Palma, simply getting to Celtic and living out that moment was a big win. He might not have become a regular starter or a star player, but he still achieved something that meant everything to him. Celtic are expected to make changes this summer as Brendan Rodgers shapes his squad for the season ahead. Palma looks likely to be one of the players moving on, with first-team opportunities limited and no permanent move from Olympiacos. Wherever he ends up next, Palma will always have the memory of playing for the club he admired as a boy. His time at Celtic may have been short, but it gave him a moment he'll carry with him for the rest of his career. Lastly, Greg Taylor is set to bring his over 6-year Celtic career to an end, with the Scotland international agreeing a move to Greek side PAOK on a free transfer, and Seltzer here understands the left-back is expected to finalise a 3-year deal with the Thessaloniki-based club on Tuesday. We understand PAOK had been on the hunt for a left-sided defender, and despite considering several players across Europe and South America, they prioritised Taylor after learning he was available without a fee. The club's recruitment team opted to move quickly to secure the 27-year-old ahead of pre-season. Taylor's final appearance in green and white came in the Scottish Cup final defeat to Aberdeen at Hampden back in May. It brought the curtain down on a spell that included multiple domestic trophies and consistent appearances under a number of managers. Wearing the number 3 shirt, Taylor joined Celtic from Kilmarnock in 2019 and racked up over 200 appearances for the club. He was part of the side that won 5 league titles during his time in Glasgow, as well as 3 Scottish Cups and 3 League Cups. His departure leaves Brendan Rodgers with a space in the squad to fill. Yes, Kieran Tierney will come in and be the first choice left back. However, his injury history means Celtic need a strong number 2 in the position. It will now prompt activity in the transfer market as Celtic look to add further depth ahead of a campaign that includes Champions League football. Taylor's move to PAOK will see him join a side that finished 3rd in the Greek Super League and will have the opportunity to play in the UEFA Conference League next season. The switch offers him a fresh challenge and a chance to test himself on a new stage, having spent his entire senior career in Scotland up until now. What are your thoughts on these? Let us know down in the comment section below. Make sure you've liked this video and subscribe to the channel for more Celtic content.